state from raids from the FBI and the DOJ, who obviously had no clue of what they were going after when they raided his villa looking for classified documents, which Mike Turner admits that he would never, ever take home himself. But that's not what we're talking about today. We are talking about, and guess what? We have a new camera today, so a new angle. And it's going to take me a little getting used to, but hey, hope you like it. This is getting us ready so that when we have guests here, we can get both of us in the same shot. So we're going to talk about small businesses versus big business. Now, definition of small business, it depends on what you call small business. The SBA calls small businesses everybody under 500 employees. To me, that's still a very large business. Okay? But here's some facts that you might find interesting. The number of people, Americans, working in small business started decreasing about the same time Mike Turner got to Congress. Why is there a correlation there? Well, they did lots of tax breaks for big business. They let big business buy things. They spent a lot of money with the military-industrial complex. And Mike Turner is bought by billionaires, 19 and counting so far to his campaign. So we have a stat that's pretty interesting here that says back in, from the 70s onward, that small businesses have created 66% of the net new jobs in the country. Let me say that again. 66% of the jobs are created by small business. For me, I've never really worked for a big business. Now, some of you, that's all you've ever worked for. You work for things like the government or, all those things. But to me, small business is my friends who own restaurants, my friends who own an optical shop. There's lots of small businesses. We've got some incredibly good ones in Montgomery County, including things like Dorothy Lane Market that constantly compete with Kroger and Meijer and Walmart in the same area. I mean, small business makes your community interesting. Need an example? Where would you rather go and have a nice meal? Brown Street between Stewart and Wyoming, or the Oregon District? Now, if you go outside Stewart and Wyoming, you can get to places like the Pine Club or Jimmy's Ladder 11 or Timothy's, but the rest of them are all, mass, large business for the most part. They're big chain restaurants. There's a few independents in there like Butter and Old Hickory, but in the Oregon District, it's all independent. And there's a difference. There's a different vibe. There's a different feel. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of those franchises of those big chains, those are small businesses too. They don't have more than 50 employees, which is the alternative definition of small business. And they're owned by somebody who lives right here in the community. They just have a trade dress that they rent. And again, they are the heartbeat of America, and they are the ones that get things done. They provide the first jobs for so many kids. My first jobs were all with small businesses. I run a small business, and I think it's important that we support small businesses. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is there was a guy who ran for Congress a few years back, and he sent me a very long diatribe in the mail and via email telling me, all that stuff about small business doesn't matter. Take it off your website. You don't need to talk about it. Contraire. That's not the way it's going to work. Small business is getting hammered by companies like Amazon, by companies like Google, Facebook. They are eating our lunch and into it. And they're charging us, basically nickel and diming us out of business with stupid stuff. One of those is how hard it is to do payroll. Payroll used to be something we could do on a ledger, a piece of paper, and it would be all nice and simple. But now we've all got accounting systems that we have to rent from Intuit, and then we have to rent either from them or someone else a payroll service that can interface with their API. I can't just plug in the rates that are required for each of my employees. No, I have to rent it. And the payment process and filing those things and paying them all. There's no reason to do that. The federal government could provide a portal very easily and get real-time results and get their taxes quicker and better by providing software to all small businesses. And it would help small businesses because the two things that drive them nuts are access to capital and regulations. And if you look at the amount of time we spend fining small businesses on things like, what taxes we didn't pay on the right time, because it's very confusing from each city to each county to each state. Sales taxes, income taxes, CAT taxes, use taxes, all these taxes are easy for big businesses to deal with, not so easy for small businesses. In the middle of COVID, I did something that I never thought I'd do. I changed from a sole proprietorship to an LLC. And when I did that, it took forever to get all the things caught up, and I'm still getting notice after notice that they're confused because half the year was under the old EIN, Employer Identification Number, and half of it was the new one. This could be avoided. It could save the government a ton of money if we made it easier to start up. Everything from your business license and your business registration to your payroll taxes, and even consider this, integrated accounting that's offered for free. There is no reason we can't have an open source accounting software that's available for businesses in this country that takes care of reporting all these things, because those numbers would be very helpful for financial strategies by the Fed, by Congress, everybody. Because right now, where do they get their information on the financial health of this country? From Wall Street, which is zero small business. They measure the quality of our economy and how well things are going on a large part by Wall Street. And then also the Consumer Price Index, which is generally an aggregate of information that's coming from larger businesses because they have an easier way to get those numbers reported. So, anyway, every business in the country, 99.7% of firms that have employees fit the SBA small business rule. Okay? If you go to 50, it would still be 2/3 of all businesses. The lobbyists for small business don't have near the juice that the big businesses do. And they've asked for lower individual tax rates, eliminate time-consuming regulations, bring down the cost of health care, stop borrowing rates from surging. In fact, these increases of 0.75% monthly by the Fed are having a devastating effect on small business. And we have to figure out a way to stop governments from picking winners and losers. Because that's what they're doing when they're doing things like the CHIPS Act and saying we're going to bring, the chip industry back to the United States and we're going to support these large businesses. What are they really doing? They're picking one chip builder over another. Or they're doing the same thing with warehouse spaces for Amazon when you see cities pandering. We have to have an open rubric for what gets you tax dollars for your business. Because we can keep building infrastructure to support big business out into the cornfields, but that's not helping big business in the middle of the city. One of the things I wanted to propose in Congress is to eliminate the April 15th deadline for all income taxes and do it on a revolving basis. He said, the guy who sent me the letter said, "Oh, this is stupid. It works." Well, if you've ever known anybody who's married to an accountant, they will tell you those people don't sleep, a tax accountant, for months, small business tax accountant, for months before April 15th. If they could spread it out, and have to do it year-round and have year-round deadlines and have it revolving business by business by business based on just like everything else, like you do with your vehicle registrations, their lives, their businesses would get simpler and slower and easier. So that would be a great advantage. But the biggest issue we have right now, and I can't stress this enough, is when Amazon keeps growing and they offer $15 an hour starting wages, and they offer full health care, and they're offering this like right off the bat, it makes it hard for all those other small franchises to find people to flip your burgers, to wash your car, to do all these other jobs, because the starting salary just went up. Now, I don't disagree that $15 should be the starting minimum wage. Okay, I believe the minimum wage has been way too low for too long. But competing with the buying power Amazon has in getting health insurance is impossible for small business unless we join some sort of buying group. And I don't expect the insurance industry to do that well, because the health insurance industry has not solved the problem of health care for Americans yet. What has is Medicare. And Medicare for all would make a lot of sense, because we're wasting about 35% of our health care dollars on overhead. You'll never hear Mike Turner talking about eliminating the health insurance industry, but you will hear me doing it, because I get my health care from the government as a disabled veteran. That health care system is so far better than what I was doing when I was using civilian health care. My records are all online. My meds are handled through it. Simple online portal. I can access all of my medical records at any time. I can share them with other doctors. I can do pretty much everything in one unified fashion, and it works great. I see a GP. I see my other doctors when I need to. It's a good system. Guess what? That ain't going to happen right away. So, instead of going Medicare for all, I'm suggesting that those small businesses, 50 and under, get access to buy into Medicare for a period of a couple of years to give them a fighting chance at competing with huge businesses which get these huge discounts. That's my proposal to help small business. And there's another program that I've been working with in Montgomery County for a while called YouthWorks. I bring this up because yesterday one of the kids, that must have been one of my first ones over a decade ago, came in with a smooth-talking other guy who met him in a grocery store to talk to me. And little did I know he was getting sucked into Amway. Now, I don't have a problem with Amway because it is basically a small business, even though it is multi-level marketing. You run your own business and you do that. I just don't see how I can compete with it. He says, well, we don't spend money on advertising. Well, I'm in advertising and I believe in advertising, and I don't know what Amway has that I would want. But that program with YouthWorks gave him, the student, the first experience in a business environment. It showed him what's possible. It built a relationship with somebody that apparently he thought of 10 years later. And he came in here, and the first thing we talked about was him finishing his associate's degree. And I told him there's extra money available for that right now, and he should get in there and get it done. YouthWorks gives kids, high school age kids, an opportunity to work in an office for 20 hours a week, or work in a business for 20 hours a week, to job shadow in real time, to do work, and to learn how to show up, be professional, do all those things that you would do in a regular job. And I think it's a fantastic program. I've had several other small businesses I know participate. And again, it gets people opportunities to see what are, interact with our youth in a way that they're not normally to small business people, and the other way around. So I would like to see a program like that expanded nationwide, giving high schoolers opportunities to do work in small business sponsored by us. Now you say, oh my God, that where's the advantage to that? Well, there's only some things you can teach in school. And one of the things they haven't managed to teach is how to show up for a job and work in a professional environment as well as they could have. So it would be a huge advantage. Plus, what it could do to change the economy and change the way we get people ready, and realizing that at this point the military is even facing a problem because less than 25% of the kids are able to enlist. They are not physically capable or able to pass the ASVAB to get in. And that's a threat to national security, which is something Mike Turner likes to talk about all the time. So, I'd love to hear from some of you what your concerns are as small business people and what kind of things you've struggled with over the years. I know that there are quite a few things and stories from my clients of frustration. I've seen times when government has been very heavy-handed in things like anything from building permits to health inspections for restaurants to even my rehab of this business, because the building had sat empty for probably at least 10 years. Getting the permits and turning it back into a neighborhood business was difficult. We need small businesses. We need them more than we need big businesses. And in fact, one of the last parts I want to talk about is what it's costing now. It used to be we advertised in the yellow pages. You had one company raking you over the coals to be able to be found. Now we have to pay Google for placement. We have to pay Amazon for placement. We have to pay Facebook for recognition. It's not just that they're showing your stuff because they followed you or liked you. You have to pay. And they control so much of the market and have the power to make you show up in search. It is absolutely insane. It's time for some antitrust regulation and making it easier for small businesses to compete. Anyway, I see my friend Bill Mavar piping in saying, hardest thing we find teaching youth today is to show up on time. I've had that with many of these kids, and they figured it out over time. In fact, the last two actually came early and even stayed late. It was kind of refreshing. But we have to start looking at how we train the future workforces, because it's not the same as it was. There are a lot less manufacturing type jobs. There's a lot of service jobs. There's a lot of technician and professional services jobs and technical jobs. Not everybody needs a college education, but they do need training at how to show up for work. And I got a story. Bill says a hangover doesn't excuse one from the responsibility of going in and functioning. I hired a kid way back, and the first day he showed up, I was so happy to have hired him from the School of Advertising Arts. He was my favorite student there, the portfolio, great work. He shows up hungover the very first day. I'm like, oh no, this isn't going good. The next day, he calls in sick. Next thing, he's in the hospital. For 2 weeks, they don't know what's wrong with him. They take his appendix out because they can't figure out what's going on. And after they figured out it was some strange syndrome that he caught, and they treated it with the right drugs, and he came back to work. And while he was incredibly slow the first 6 months, he became a really good employee for the first 4 years, 3.5 years he worked for me. I won't say what happened after that, but he is still a talented person. I just don't think biting the hand that feeds you is always a good idea. Anyway, so glad you dropped in, those of you that stayed and talked. I don't know what the topic's going to be tomorrow, Friday, but we're going to work on something interesting. If you got any ideas, leave them in the comments. We read them all. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notify bell so you know exactly when we go live. Also, electesrati.com has all the information you need. You can also donate online, and I'm way behind my competitor with his 19 billionaires. So every penny is appreciated. $5 doesn't take much. Just Go over there and hit donate, and then that gets you emails from me once a week, not 5 times a day claiming the sky is falling. There you have it. It's Thursday. They're still doing construction outside. We didn't get too much noise today, and hopefully it'll be quiet for the next week or so as they're wrapping things up on the block. So, I'm David Esrati. I'm running for Congress. Oh, and tonight I am going to be at the Greene County Public Library in Xenia from 6 to 7:30. I'll be running video. They're having an ACLU listening session. Now, what happens at those can be very interesting. And that's why I want to hear it, because those are the people that are worried about our civil liberties. And lately, those have been pretty much trounced upon, and we're questioning what people have a right to say and do in public, and whether they can incite riots and get away with it, or if that needs to be restrained. So I'll be there. Hope you come out. Be good to meet you. And I'll have the video up probably on Monday or Tuesday on my channel to keep the community informed. Thank you so much. I'm David Esrati, running for Congress.